introducing our final speaker now, Tim Godwin, former acting commissioner of the Metropolitan Police at one point.
Had some riots, yeah.
Yeah, and now the chair of Make Time Count. Over to Tim, and also there'll be a short period of time for questions to Tim as well after he's given his presentation.
I think everybody will want to go into the network and having a drink, but can I say that as an old retired person, I retired from the Met January 2012, and I ended up working in the private sector with Accenture initially, and then I sort of became semi-retired, and I've been co-opted to assist at Make Time Count, which is a great honour to be asked to do that, because when I look back on my career, all right, I was here in 2002, and walking in through the doors, I remembered what had happened in 2002. And I'd been on the street crime action team and the street crime initiative because I was Commander Crime in the Met, and then I became a DAC. And one of the key issues was street crime, chaired by the Prime Minister, Tony Blair, and we managed to get a reduction in London of about 40%. A lot of that was through things like getting football to run schemes in the evening when kids didn't have a lot to do and various other things. But one of the things was that I got invited here by Michael Barber, Professor Michael Barber of the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit, to sit on a panel with all the senior civil servants who each of them had what was called a PSA target. Now, many of those in the past, I see some faces here that were there, they all had a public service agreement target that they had to deliver. And those sorts of things were reduce burglary by 30%. You reduce car crime by 25%. And I'd been trying to find, as the person with the crime portfolio in London, who had set such silly targets. And I couldn't find it. And then I'm sitting on this panel. Andrew Turnbull was the head of the civil servants. He stands of the civil service. He stands up and he says to the audience, all his staff, and says, "You're here because each of you has a PSA against your name. And I can tell you that I expect you all to deliver it. And if you don't, there are people out there who can." And I thought, well, that's good people management. That's, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this now because, and so I was obviously shuffling, and Michael Barber points to me and says, Tim, I was on the street crime, blah. What would you like to say about that? And I said, well, I suddenly sat here feeling very, very guilty that I'm sitting here and not sitting over there, because I think whoever the Home Office official is that's got the burglary and the vehicle crime target, I need to buy you a beer. Because you're obviously going to be out of work shortly, and that will be down to the Metropolitan Police. And I am so sorry about that, because we will not deliver that target. Anyway, there was a bit of a kerfuffle, because it had been opened by Tony Blair, and it was going to be closed by Gordon Brown. At that point, a hand goes up at the front, and this civil servant says, "Can I just say, I'm extremely pleased to hear," because that's how they talk, you know. "I'm extremely pleased to hear what Tim has just said." And it was because my PSA is to bring about peace in the Middle East. I'm Caroline from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. And at that point, Rupert picked in about reducing tension in the Far East. And at that you suddenly realise the mockery of that sort of performance regime, yeah? And that's the thing that's always got in the way of progress. It's a performance regime that's politically convenient but delivers nothing at all, and just puts people under pressure. And it was interesting that things kept coming up today about how things are measured and how things are valued. As Gavin said, I was involved with Dennis O'Connor in leading on the National Reassurance Project, and that was because even though PSAs were being delivered, people felt less safe, and that's because the things that affected people we weren't dealing with, and there were families needing support. We were being driven towards over-policing in certain deprived communities to achieve PSAs, and that wasn't right. So we challenged that, and we created a new asset, which was called a Police Community Support Officer. And I remember writing this a bit of detention purely before, PCSO can detain someone, and that was purely because we didn't want them spitting at them and running away. We wanted. but they were definitely not police officers. I didn't want them having handcuffs. I didn't even want them with stab vests because they had a different role. It was the role that police officers couldn't do, which was actually to relate, to communicate, get to know the families, and not be seen as something to push away. And so we put out PCSOs. Tony Blair authorised the giving out of the PCSOs, and we created community teams based on working in partnership with all the other agencies that we could muster. I had a row with the Premier League, and we put in place a kick scheme, which meant that we had places that we could refer young people to, especially young men, on inner city estates, the ones that were both victims and offending, and we wanted to do stuff to make it different. I then decided that we needed to do a thing called diamond districts, all right, which was, I've got something like 14,000 short sentence prisoners coming back out of prison, and 70% of them will go the other way. What are we doing about the short sentence prisoners? So in super output estates, as we called them, which is probably a terrible term, where there were high offender populations, we put in place multi-agency teams. And the multi-agency teams were the police neighbourhood teams with some additional, probation officer, mental health worker, etc., put together to try to actually respond to those short sentence prisoners coming out. It was to actually use the National Offender Management Service, which was to take money out of the prisons by all the people we didn't send to prison. That was how it was going to be paid for. Boris, who was the mayor at the time, said, that's a bloody good idea. Yeah, we'll do that. Problem, the measurement was how many people went to prison, not how many people we changed their lives. We had a massive support from academics, Tony Bottoms, and a whole raft of people. So why do I say that? It's because you've reinforced the fact that we can still do this, that we can still change policing. Because I left in 2012, austerity was kicking in. I was being asked at conferences, how many burglars has the PCSO in Enfield arrested? Well, none. Well, that's terrible. What's the point of having them? Well, because they do other things. They do, and I got frustrated, personally frustrated with it. And I left. Austerity, PCSOs went. Why do PCSOs go? Save money, and because they're not constables. And the reason for that is the currency of the police by governments is police numbers, which is ridiculous. And it's got to change. And Gavin, it's another one for you, mate. And it's got to move into, it's what we do, not how many of us we've got, all right? I'm a very proud ex-Metropolitan police officer and Sussex police officer before that. And I'm devastated with what's been going on and what I've witnessed post. And if this character was there when I was there, then I want people to find out how we could have prevented it and what we did wrong and what I did wrong. But at the end of the day, what we have to do is not give in. Now, you have really lifted my mood as an old fart now that's actually retired and NARPO looking back and thinking, where are the neighbourhood teams? Where are the PCSOs? And I've now seen Mark Rowley moving back to community-based policing, reassurance, how safe do you feel, what's the perception of risk? West Midlands saying the same thing, and GMP saying the same thing. It's becoming that we've got to reinvent it. I once wrote a thing called the reinvention cycle, and we're into the reinvention cycle. Why are you going to be able to lead that and make it a difference? Why are you going to change it? It's because you've now got the tools to do it. Band of Brothers, Hampton Trust, etc. There are lots of local groups. And Make Time Count, and our mission in Make Time Count is to be able to put the tool in the hand that can connect the PCSO, the probation officer, the Hampton Trust, the Band of Brothers, connect them up for the right people using a consistent process and enabling it to occur. And then Peter Neyrood's thing, valuing it. If you read Handcuffed, Professor Sparrow from Harvard, what he would say is one of the challenges that has led to the Black Lives Matter movements and the distrust and mistrust is the over-policing that came out of bad performance regimes such as CompStat. And it's that over-policing. You need a non-enforcement intervention to build that trust and confidence in those communities in particular you've lost confidence, that have lost confidence in us, the police. I'll tell you, us. I still feel like one. In fact, I'm actually joining the specials at the moment. And when I said that to Gavin Stevens, he laughed because he didn't think I'd do the police test. But The Chief Constable's told me they'll give me a hand. It's all right, they're going to run it with me. But so for me, it's do not give in, yeah? Try to build it into the reassurance program. So build it into the main strategic intentions of the force. And there are a lot of them doing that at the moment, yeah? They want to get back into this. They know they have to. They need help. You can give that help, you can give those ideas, and you can build that opportunity. And I feel more reassured today that you are going to be able to deliver it and it will stick. You know, we were talking, Enzo and I, Enzo's ex-MOJ, and of course, it was sort of, how could we not bake this in? You know, why didn't we make sure it was baked in? Your opportunities here, use digital, use data, use evidence-led. That will make it happen. I wish you the best of luck. And thank you very much for sort of enlightening the mood of an old man. Now, there's lots of booze behind, but of course, and you're all welcome to have a small libation. I, of course, won't because I have to do my bleep test, but I can certainly have an orange juice. But thank you very much today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've learnt tons. Gavin has now got a list to do. There were so many speakers. We will do webinars so that you can meet some of the speakers that we didn't have a chance to really chat to, and that will be circulated post. Thank you. Thank you to the team for putting it all together, and have a good one.